Obviously, last week's a disappointment for us. Um, Again, it's football. Sports are so weird. Football's so weird. Particularly, like you watch it. What a great first half we play. We talk about playing well in all three phases, and what a first half against a really good Ball State team. And we did everything in all three phases. We were more efficient throwing the ball in the first half. We ran the ball good. Obviously, we didn't run a lot of plays on offense because of the block punts, but obviously the block punts are huge. Special teams plays. I don't think we were great on defense in the first half, but their offense is really good, and we found ways to get stops, and we found ways to pin them deep and then set up some situations that we block punts, and obviously Lonnie and Manny get huge blocks. So at a halftime, you couldn't really felt any better. And then the second half, we played our first bad half of football probably since first quarter of Buffalo, and it was the last time that you really felt like we didn't play to the level. And again, we always saying like we're never taking credit. Ball State's a really, really good football. They're as good as anybody else in this league. If you look at their scores and what they've done, they could easily be sitting where Central Michigan. They had Central Michigan down 17 points in the fourth quarter. And Central found a way to come back and beat them in a 45-44. So they're really good, and they caused a lot of the issues. Their players are good, their coaches are good, but we still didn't play to the level on OD or special teams that we know we're capable of. So that was a disappointing second half. And moving forward, obviously, at the end of the day, conference season's over, the regular season's over. We had a heck of a regular season, and going back to non-conference, I really thought our kids competed their tails off. I thought they laid the foundation for what they were going to become, whether they knew it or not. We went in Iowa City, and our kids didn't blink, and we talked about after that game, and you could see it and sense it on the field that our kids wanted to go play Iowa. Then we play Cincinnati, and we come out in that game, and it kind of set the tone for who we become. Like, we come out ready to play. Our kids are going to come out of the locker room, and we're going to throw haymakers, and we're going to get after you. And then, obviously, even the same way at Ohio State, obviously that was shorter lived than some of the other games. But at least how we came out of those, when you're a decided underdog, you're going to draw the line saying you're not, and then obviously you get in a conference and you're 6-2 in the league, and us and Central, the only two teams with 6-2. And then how we got there, you go undefeated in the East, which you have to do to win your league, obviously. You beat Kent and OU on the road, back-to-back weeks, midweek. It's hard to win midweeks on the road. The records are astronomically, since Maction has started, the road team doesn't win a lot. And then just winning all those close games. It wasn't like we had a bunch of games. We had laughers. We had one game where we took our starters out before the last dang play of the game. So not only just find a way to persevere, but win all those close games and do it in the fashion that they did it, because it wasn't, as you guys know who really follow us, it wasn't one guy. It wasn't one side of the ball. It wasn't, there was some consistently great performers every week, all right? But there was so many other guys that chipped in and had their moment, had their week, had their play, had their time where Miami football needed them, and that was their moment, and they stepped up and delivered in that moment. So not just doing it, but doing it as such a team. And then, like we've talked since January, like being around those kids for the last 11 months, like the fact that it's December 2nd, it's my wife's birthday, I'm not taking her out to dinner tonight because we're preparing for the MAC championship game, like – If you love these kids as much as I love them and respect them, and it probably even respect them more than I love them, really just who they are as people, they're pretty awesome. Like, to be able to, we're off today, but be able to go coach them another Tuesday. And again, like I said, you don't always get what you deserve, because a lot of teams played their tails off in this league and they're not going to the MAC championship game. We're not the only ones that did that. It was a knockdown, drag out. But just feeling great about what our kids, I feel like they really, really earned what they've accomplished this year, and it's been an awesome group to be a part of.
Questions?
Obviously, Gabbert didn't get a lot of time in the second half. What's his status? And
Yeah, he got banged up, and at the end of the first half, his status is he's probably going to be able to go. We'll see as the week goes on, but I would say he's more than probable for this weekend. He's got a little work to do, but everybody's got a little work to do going to week 13 to get feeling right. So, unfortunately, obviously, we'd like to have him in the second half, and I know the ESPN was saying he's fine. We're resting him. We weren't resting him. He wasn't fine. Like, that's ludicrous. Like, if we were going to rest him, we wouldn't have played him in the first half. Like, we were trying to win a game, and but we're very optimistic he'll play on Saturday.
How much do you dwell on this loss versus just cut your losses and move on to the MAC championship?
Yeah, it's for us. It's like every other game. Like, I said, one, to grow, you can grow in every situation if you attack it the right way, you know. And one, there's things, I mean, heck, there's plays and calls that Central's going to make that we didn't defend very well or we didn't execute very well on offense. Like, there's some things that Ball State does that Central does that Ball State beat us doing. Like, we're going to see it again in 7 days. So it's not necessarily so much dwelling, but you're going to correct things. And then there's just fundamental things that you're always going to correct because you're trying to help your kids become better players. And just because it's week 12 going to week 13 doesn't mean you can't improve your football team. And our kids have bought in that. So first thing is looking critically like we do every week, even after the wins, like what didn't we do well? What do we need to improve on? And let's really work hard on improving those areas, you know. From the overall loss, it's kind of like every other loss. You don't want to just dismiss it, hey, we're MAC East champs, it's okay. We never do that because, like I said in the locker room after the game, like it should hurt in your stomach. Like you should be – I watched the thing on the way home. I told some of the players, like, hey, when you watch the first half, that's fine. There's some really nice things that were done the first half. But before you watch the second half, you might want to have an empty stomach. You know, you don't really want to watch that on a full stomach because I had some Chick-fil-A on the bus. I probably had too much Chick-fil-A, and then I'm watching the second half defensively, and I'm like, I'm having a hard time, you know, keeping my dinner, lunch down, you know. So for us, it should hurt. Like we want to play, and we have, like I said, we didn't play great the first quarter of Buffalo, but after that, we've had our ups and downs and but we've made teams earn stuff against us. We haven't handed anything to anyone, and we didn't. Ball State took some things and earned some stuff, but we also didn't execute some things that we know we can execute. So that should hurt. It doesn't matter. Your competitor we weren't playing out the string. We weren't looking ahead we were trying to get to 7-1 the league. We didn't do it. Ball State earned no victory. So we're not dwelling on it, but we're going to learn from it, and it's going to hurt a little bit. Then, like every other week, we're going to move on pretty quick. Like you can't sit there and you know. You've played really good football this year. What didn't we do well in that second half? And let's correct those things, and let's be prepared for that moment again. And we've done really well, you know, in critical situations. And we didn't, you know, they got the momentum going, and we didn't really right the ship much on either side of the ball.
Clearly, Central Michigan is a tremendously dramatic story in this league this year. How much of a challenge does their offensive balance pose for you guys? I mean, they have so many weapons.
Yeah, they are. I mean, again, it's a massive turnaround, particularly when you get a new staff in there. But if you look at the history, like 2 years ago, they were one of the best teams in the league. And they have, like, their tailback that we played against before as a young kid, he was really, you know, it's not like they're coming off 4, 5, 6 straight years of mediocrity or below mediocrity. They did have a very young Central Michigan who's been one of the consistent, maybe the most consistent program over the last 30 years in MAC play. They did have a blip on the radar, and they made a coaching change, and obviously the new staff, obviously high-profile guy they bring in who's already well-known, tremendous coach, but obviously they've done crazy great job of just getting everybody to buy into their systems and their way of life. They're very physical, they're very tough-minded, they're very well coached, they're very disciplined. That's the starting point. But they're crazy talented. Their receiving core, if you add their tight ends, no one in this league can match it. And the Sullivan kid, I don't know. I mean, the only guy I've seen in this league in my time, the Johnson kid from Buffalo, he's very similar, big, strong, and he catches so many contested balls, all right? The Pimbleton kid, him and Bellamy are the two most electric dudes in this league by far. And he can go to the house every time he touches the ball. It's scary, and he's been, I mean, I think they're the two leading receivers in the league, or right up there if they're not the two leading. I think they're second and third in the league, okay? And then you've got two tailbacks. The one kid, before the OU game, there's some NFL guys there looking at Costin, Sloman, and Rourke, and Hagans, and some of the top players in the OU Miami game. But the guys I know, I said, well, who do you really like in the league? The first guy they all mentioned was a Ward kid. All right, and we had him when he was a youngster and was really good as a youngster, and now we got him as a senior, which is awesome because one of my goals this year was to play Central Michigan at some point this year, because if you play Central Michigan, they're not on your schedule. That means you're probably either dreaming or you're in the MAC championship game. So, but to get Ward again as a senior and see how he's developed, but big, strong, over 200-pound back, crazy balance, crazy stiff arm, crazy spin, no one tackles him, and he's one of the best receiving backs probably in the country. Like, that's why his ticket to the NFL is his ability to do both, be a high-end tailback toting the rock, but then also come out of the backfield, and they use him like a receiver. All right. You add him into the receiving, you add Four, their other tailback, who's just as good, if not at times even more scary, I think, than Ward. They're a dynamic duo back there. They're both close to 1,000 yards, I think. great balance, great vision, great patience, like, and they use those backs and they get them out. Like, you add the backs into the passing game, the amount of catches those kids have, they have by far the best receiving corps in the league, because no one has the receivers, the tight end, and the running backs catching as no one does it. No one even tries to do it, to be honest with you. The way they integrate the backs and all the empty stuff and all the free releases. And it's, again, when we put backers on backs, we've never worried about the matchup. Now, all of a sudden, Ward and Ford come out of the backfield, and you're like, okay, we've done this all year, but we've always felt good about the matchup. Now you got a legitimate NFL-type receiving running back coming out of the backfield. It's a scary deal. So, and then they got an NFL-style quarterback that once they settled in on him at quarterback, their offense was doing pretty good, but then it's just, he's got really comfortable with their system and his decision-making, and they protect him, and he is crazy strong arm and make all the throws. And then, like I just said earlier, like, they're the most balanced defense we face. We've seen some really good run defense. We've seen some really good pass defenses, but we always felt like, well, you know, their run defense looks good, but their pass stats aren't great. Or maybe their pass stats look really good, but they've given up a lot of yards rushing. Like, they've been at top of the league all year, towards the top of the league in all the categories, and they defend the pass well, and they defend the run well. And they rush the quarterback well, and they turn the ball over well. So, dynamic return, like, there's a reason they're good. I mean, there's no one that's played them that thinks, well, it's a fluke. That's not. Yeah, it's a great story. You got one win and you come back and you win the league. That's a phenomenal story and a phenomenal job by their staff and their players and everybody involved in Mount Pleasant. But there's no one that's played Central that thinks, well, they're not very good. I don't know how they got there. They're good. They're a really good football team. The story really is just doing it, getting a new staff in there and getting it integrated that quickly is really, really awesome by their staff.
Obviously, getting to Detroit for the MAC championship game has been, a goal of yours since you've gotten here. How special is it that it's finally the week that you're going?
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, it's awesome. I mean, I can tell you it's not. I think it's awesome for everybody involved. I think you're a coach, you're a player, and then all these, your bake, like all the hours we put in to try to help this program, from academic people to equipment people to medical people to strength and conditioning people to media people to ADs to sit, like, there's a lot of people that spends so many hours. When we clinched, when Trickett made the field goal and Kench, we clinched. First person I called was Dave Sell. Like, the field goal didn't go through. I called Dave. He'd been doing it 1 year longer than I did. He had a goal. He's been here 7 years, and his goal was to get Miami football back to the level where you could be really proud of the product you're putting on the field. And I remember way back, 6 years ago, and how do we want to do it? Do we want to do it the right way? Do we want to go quick fix? We knew how bad we were. We knew how if we did it the right way, it may take a while. The fact that we got co-East champs in year 3 is pretty amazing, that we got it turned around that quick. But then consistently been good and 22-8 in the league. But then, like you said, like, at the end of the day, we hadn't got to here yet, And we always talk about, you want to get to Detroit, you want to play in a bowl game, and then you want to play your best football in those 2 games. And we've accomplished the first goal of getting Detroit and getting a bowl game. Now the challenge is play your best. You want to play your best football these last 2 games. That's the goal. Win, lose, or draw, you want to play your best football. You want to lay it all on the line and play great football and make somebody really, really, if somebody does get you or somebody does beat you, somebody really, really earns a victory against you. You weren't just happy to get to the next step. And we have a team that's set up to do that. We don't have a team that's fat and happy. We don't have a team that thinks they're invincible. We don't have a team that thinks they're so special that, like, we have a blue collar working. I remember in the interview, and the old president asked me, and I think I made him swallow his tongue when I told him it, because it's Miami. And he, during the interview, he asked me, I'll never forget this, because I saw the look on his face, and I thought, not a good answer, Chuck. Honesty's not always the best policy when you're trying to get a job, So he asked me about, like, if we were to hire you as a coach, give me one word to describe what your football team would be like. Now, you guys know Miami, right? Well, I didn't even blink, because I thought, blue collar. We're going to be blue collar, all right? And we're going to be a lunch pail. And he looked at me like, blue collar Miami, that's not, that doesn't mesh. Like, and I'm looking at him like, I didn't say nothing. I saw his look. I almost said, if you want to win some damn games, you might want to become a little more, Now, I actually kept my mouth shut for once. But I still remember, like, and to me, slowly but surely, we've become that group, and we become that group that grinds. We've become that group that doesn't blink. We've become that group that can get sand kicked in our face, and we're not going to quit. Our end of the year record's amazing. even the year 2, we won 3 games. We won 2 of our last 3. It goes back to even year 2 that we're not going to quit. Like, we're not going to pack it in. We're not going to go away quietly. If you are, you're going to have to find some other place to be. So a year you win 3 games, you win weeks 10 and 12. Most of the time that doesn't happen because you've bagged it already, and you've stopped playing. And then obviously 6 in a row and obviously 3 in a row last year, and just our resolve and our who our kids are and who our staff is and who our sports staff is. It's all, everybody just works. Everybody wants what's in the best interest of these kids. Everybody wants to push and challenge these kids to be the best. So it's awesome to be here. We're excited to be here, but our goal is to play our best football of the year.
After losing at Ball State, is it pretty easy to kind of refocus with the MAC championship coming up?
Yeah, I mean, I think the loss versus Ball State was a real eye-opener for a lot of us. I think we went into the week not wanting to believe that if we lost this game, we still went to the MAC championship. And I think a lot of complacency set in. And I think that was a great learning opportunity. It doesn't matter who you're playing, the people you have playing, or really any of the other factors that went into that game. The fact is that we lost a game that, in a lot of our minds, we believe that we should have won, and that's not acceptable. So the mentality that we're bringing to the MAC championship is that, yeah, this is the most important game that we've had, but every single game prior to this has been the most important game that we have. And we lost versus Ball State, and we're going to try to get it back in Detroit.
So would you say last week was kind of a wake-up call for you guys?
100%, yeah. I think you win a couple games, and at least for us, we got a little complacent, and it showed in the second half. Yeah, we had injuries. We had a new QB. Tommy was out. We had a couple guys that went out of the game, but that's no excuse. We've won in the past with different guys going out. We won a bunch of games when I wasn't playing. We won a bunch of games when last year, you look at all the injuries that we had last year. It's not an excuse. So the only thing that I can come up with is that we got complacent, and I think it's an eye-opener, and it's a real wake-up call for a lot of the guys in our team. And I'm happy that it happened now instead of in the MAC championship game or in a game that's way more important. So it's an eye-opener, but it's a good one.
On the bright side, you had your best game of the year in terms of catches and everything, too. How are you feeling at this point? Are you like 100%, or are you still working your way back a little bit?
Yeah, so I mean, I think for anybody that has played football at the Division I level, 100% is a very relative term. I'm as good as I can be for right now, and I think that's what a lot of guys on our team would say. Yeah, I feel great. I feel as good as I've felt and all the way up until this point. So as far as me playing in this game, I'm excited. I'm excited for the opportunity, and I think there's going to be a little extra incentive. I've been waiting a while for this game, so it's pretty exciting. I think the last time we went was 2010. So there's a lot of history and there's a lot of opportunity here. So there's going to be a little extra adrenaline that will probably take away any of the extra pain that I have. So
Obviously, getting to the MAC championship has been a goal for you guys for quite a while now. It's finally MAC championship week. Is it kind of a surreal experience that you're going to be going to Detroit coming up this weekend?
yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely. I don't really think it's set in. You know, I think it's awesome that we're going, but I think the process that we go through every single week, it's not like that's changed. We had our special teams unit. We looked over the film and we looked at what we did wrong, and we took notes on it, and we went out on Sunday and we looked at the basis of Central Michigan's offense. So, I mean, I don't think it has anything has changed along as far as the process goes. And so that's kind of kept us grounded and kept us focused on the process instead of the MAC championship and this upcoming weekend. So it hasn't really set in, but I bet on the bus ride up there and when we finally get to Ford Field and kind of walk on the field, I think it's going to set in a little more and that we made it and that we're here. But there's still a big opportunity. We still got to go out and play 60 minutes of good football.
Have you ever been to Ford Field?
I haven't, no. But I have a couple buddies that, at least on the team, that have played. One of my buddies, Brian McWood, played there a couple times with Brother Rice and other Catholic leagues. So he said it's an awesome field. It's a little hot, so it's going to be a good change up from the cold weather that we've been getting. So, but I'm excited. It should be awesome. Anytime you get to play in a venue like that, we played in Bengals Stadium. Was that last year? And that was awesome. I mean, it's really cool anytime you get to play in a venue like that.
Manny, do you feel like loss at Ball State was kind of a wake-up call against complacency?
I wouldn't say a wake-up call. against complacency, but a wake-up call that if we don't do our jobs, if we're not where we need to be, that anything can happen. You saw that, we got up on them I think it was two scores, something like that. But in the second half, the things that we did in the first half, we didn't do. And, I've said it before, we can be beat any day if we're not doing our job. So I wouldn't say a wake-up call to complacency, but a wake-up call to a reminder, really, that, we can be beat, and if we don't do what we're supposed to do, we will be beat.
If there was any chance of any kind of complacency going into this game this week, did looking at Central Michigan's offense maybe shake that out of you a little bit? They're pretty balanced.
They're a really balanced offense. They've got weapons all across the board. You're talking about two backs that are really good, close to 1,000-yard rushing. You're talking about two receivers that are really good. They've really got a third receiver, Scott, who's really good. He might get overlooked by the other guys, and they got a tight end who's pretty good. The quarterback's a big NFL star quarterback, 6'5", probably hard to take down. So, yeah, when you cut the film on, it's definitely no room for complacency. We know what we got to do on defense. And like I said, when you're playing a team like Central Michigan, you have to be on your P's and Q's because, with those guys, you can't give them second chances. You can't give them opportunities that they don't already have because they're so prolific on the offensive side of the ball that, we don't have no room for error.
How do you balance being excited for a big game like the MAC championship, but also taking it day at a time and keeping your head straight?
Really just breaking down the film is what I think. So I think when you watch the film, you get excited. Anybody who's a competitor loves to play in championship games, and there are things that don't happen all the time. Last time I played for a championship game was my sophomore year of high school. So in terms of being excited and taking it day by day, I feel that the preparation, kind of soothes the excitement. The more you prepare, the more confident you get, the more excited you get. So I feel like every day you build more excitement as you, become more prepared.